Hello, everybody. This is Mark Kumar, your lifestyle entrepreneur and proud founder of Simple Podcast Cloud, a platform that allows podcasters to host your audio files so that way you can distribute it to everywhere else. And the one thing we are very different at it, we want you to grow. And as you grow, we do not allow you to limit yourself by having X amount of podcasts, X amount of download. That's why we give you everything unlimited. We are for podcasts by podcaster. And speaking of podcaster, we have another amazing podcaster here with us today who's going to help you get your journey started or get your, if you're started already, move ahead in your podcasting career. So, Angela, please take your time to introduce yourself to my audiences and the people who listen to the podcast show. May not know about you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, thank you so much, Mark. It's so great to be on here. My name is Ange Dove. I'm your business fairy godmother. I'm from the UK, but I've been living in Singapore for the last 30 years, and I've been running my own business doing copywriting and content writing for businesses. And over the last few years, I've kind of added on an education arm to the business, Market Smart, and that aims to educate people who want to start a business or they're already in a business and they're not sure how to market it and they're confused with all the tech stuff out there. So I help people basically to build a purposeful, profitable business, basically by teaching what they know or sharing what they know.
All right. I love the title though. Fairy Godmother. That's pretty amazing, unique title you got there.
My magical.
So tell us, how did you get into this wonderful, amazing world of podcasting?
I think really just by accident in a way. I was looking for ways to share to a wider audience. And obviously there's Facebook and Facebook Lives and things like that. And that all involves cameras. But I found that that kind of stopped me putting things out there quite so often, because often I wasn't dressed for the part. I didn't have my makeup on. And so it would involve a lot of planning for me to actually get on video.
Okay.
But with podcasts, the way I do podcasts is I don't do the video part of it. I just do for the audio.
Okay.
So that just enabled me then to just, whenever I can think of something, I can get on and I can do a podcast. So how I got involved in it really was I just saw an advert on Facebook for somebody selling a course on how to set up your own podcast. And I thought, I want to learn this. So I just applied and I just did everything that they said. And then within a couple of days, I had my own podcast show. So I kind of designed the tile, the branding, and got all the software that they said and got my tools ready. And then I had a little studio, and that's how I started. And then as I put the message out there, really, that I had a podcast, then I started to get people coming to me and saying, oh, we'd be interested in having you on our show, and can you come on, and can we be on your show? So there's actually no shortage of people to interview. And then I end up really sharing stuff with the world, like through people like you. It's just absolutely amazing. You're in New York and I'm in Singapore. And then we can do all this wonderful stuff together. It's absolutely fantastic. It's a great world.
Isn't it amazing how you can connect with someone else you never even talked to or heard of? And then when you do connect, it's like, wow, I really like this person.
Yeah. So we have a great time there.
Yeah, really, it's amazing. I find it very rewarding, and then not to mention the fact that you get to learn from another industry expert that you may not even know about it, and then they may know things that you were like, I didn't know. Like, what are you talking about? And then
Exactly.
yeah, right. And then you get to apply it in your own industry, and then wherever you have learned, it's just like, wow. I want to do
Yeah.
this more. That's why I love podcasting. That's why I love
Yeah.
people like you I can learn from. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
That's right.
All right. So what is your particular podcast about, like in terms of like the content? What do you help people with?
So it basically is just any information on a session by session basis that will allow people starting a business to just gain some more information about how they can do that, and just giving them the knowledge that actually you can do this. This is what I want to do, is empower them to realize that they can, if they want to, leave a full-time job and set up a business, run it online, and really just by sharing what you know, you can build a business doing that, because people will want to hear from you. It's like, for example, the example I gave about this lady that was selling her podcast course and said, then I thought, okay, I'll sign up for this. So I was a perfect audience for her at that time, because it was something I wanted to learn and I didn't know. And just by doing that, I was able to learn it. So, and then, so if you have that knowledge, you have some kind of knowledge that other people need to learn, you can monetize on that. So that's really what I want to help people to do. So, the things that we talk about range from finding that thing that, that skill that you have that you could monetize. Because a lot of people don't realize that they can monetize certain things. I think people fall into the trap of thinking that it's just normal. Everybody knows this, right? And then they don't realize that there's a lot of people out there that don't know it, and you can be an expert on something that, and you can monetize that basically, because there are people out there that want to learn it. So we start off with that. Then it's how to build your message, how to build your brand, how to get your message out there, how to connect with people, how to find the people that naturally want to buy from you. So we start off with that. So I have a system that's called Get Ready, Get Seen, Get Business. So I basically focus my content around those 3 buckets of information. How do you get ready? That's the branding. How do you get seen? That's more the internet marketing, social media marketing. And then how to get business? That's the relationship building, the copywriting, the transition through to sales, basically on there. So it's the conversions.
Okay, I really like the fact that you broke it down in small buckets and not like everything you gotta do this is it. Like just focus on these three things and you'll be
Yeah,
good. And I'm
yeah.
really interested. And I know people who are gonna be listening to this, they might be also interested. It's like,
Mm.
how do you get started? Right? So, someone who is just who has a regular nine
How
to
do you
five
get?
job,
Yeah.
and then how does that person get started?
So first of all, it's understanding that you can do it. It's carving out that little bit of extra time during the week to start to set things up.
Okay.
So in my program that I offer, we do it step by step on how
Okay.
they get started. So you want to first decide on what is your message to the world? What is that special thing that you can give? Right. And then we build the whole business around that then. So then it's coming up with your brand story, your understanding who your customer is that's going to buy from you, your avatar, things like that. So what is the message? And that's the hardest thing. I think one of the hardest things is the message. How are you going to package it, basically? Because there's a difference between selling something.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can sell something, but it's not going to be particularly enticing if you're just saying, here's what I have, right? So the skill really is, or the secret is really to package it in a way that makes it enticing for people. So if I just said to you, I'm going to help you start your own business, that's, well, okay, well, anyone can help me do that. What's so special about you? Right. But
Right.
if I say I've got a proven 3-step system, get ready, get seen, get business, now I've packaged that offer.
Right.
So it's automatically more enticing. And then if you give someone a system, that makes them more comfortable and more likely to sign up. Because if they know that it's a system, it means it's something that they can follow. It's
Gotcha.
something that's duplicable. So it's a step-by-step process. So they're not going to get lost along the way.
Okay,
Right.
so can we do a little case study here? Let's say if I want to start a podcast,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm a baker, or let's just go with another one. Let's just say I'm a photographer, and
Yeah.
I want to start a podcast, and I
Uh-huh.
come to you like, hey, I need to get started, quote
All right.
unquote,
Right.
podcasting. What
Right.
advice would you give me?
So one of the things will be, okay, so you're wanting to put your podcast out about what it is that you do, right? So your skill is photography.
Yep.
So we need to work out sort of your content strategy around what are you going to be able to teach? What are
Okay.
you going to be able to talk about on your podcast? So one of the things will be just to break down into different segments
Okay.
the different parts of the skills that you have that you can then talk about. So you've got content. So once you break it down to say maybe 5 different segments within your area of expertise, then you want to brainstorm in one segment. Then what can you brainstorm off that as to what kind of things you can teach
Okay.
around that?
So can I stop you right there
Yeah,
because I want to make sure that I get specific enough if somebody who's just starting on, they go like, hey, I know exactly what I need to do and can start the podcast out. So for example, like I
right.
said, I'm a photographer
Mm,
and I want to get my podcast out there,
right.
and then I want people to know that I'm an amazing photographer, and I want to use the podcasting tool as a marketing thing where people listen to me and then come hire me.
Right.
So
So you've
how do
got the
I get that?
content sorted out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the next thing is your branding. So okay. So when you go on to a podcast channel and you're looking for all the different podcasts that are out there,
Right.
one of the things will be go and study what's already out there. Go and study who your so-called competition is out on
Mm-hmm.
Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever.
Right.
So go and have a look and see what's going on out there, and
Okay.
then what kind of niche you can fill. So what
Gotcha.
are other people doing? How can you do it a little bit differently? How can you look a little bit different? And then so then moving on from there will be like designing your tile. That's the picture, the image that's going
Yep.
to represent your podcast, your brand. So how are you going to design that? What are you going to look for in that, in terms of look at your competition, look at what's already out there. How can you stand out maybe visually with your tile as well, would be one thing.
Right.
And just look at how other people are doing it so that you make sure that you're kind of standing out from them, but you're also not doing things that are too outlandish as well. You don't want to make mistakes in what you do.
Right.
So kind of things like some of the things will be you put too much information on your tile. And then when you look at how big or small the tiles are on people's computers, it's can they read it, right? Can they see it?
Right.
So that's another thing. So I was to say, yeah, look at that as well. So you're building your brand. You've got to make sure your brand follows through with what the rest of your brand is as well. So, like for example, I'm your business fairy godmother, so that's represented on my tile kind of thing as
Okay.
well. So that kind of stuff is there. So yeah, so that's one thing. And then looking at the equipment that you need, making sure you have the equipment, and that varies from person to person, podcast to podcast. So it's just looking at what's available and what you can use to do that.
Okay. It's that simple. That's it.
Well, that's not that simple.
Of course,
I
it's
mean,
not. Obviously, there's more to. But someone who can literally just follow these steps, they can absolutely get started, and then starting the podcasting thing will be a lot more easier as compared to not knowing this information.
yeah, that's right. And then you need to find a platform that you want to host your podcast on.
And since you're the expert, what platform would you in not even like specific like platform, but what things and features that you recommend a person should look for when they're thinking of a podcast hosting that you feel like? And be honest.
Okay, right. So you've got some free ones out there, but
Sure.
from what I understand from them, these are good if you're just starting out and you're just experimenting.
Right.
But if you want to really be serious with it and you want to get going with it, you want to be looking at upgrading at some point so that the sound is better, things like that.
Right.
But there are podcast platforms out there. You want to make sure that you can disseminate to the different podcast channels. So you want to be able to very easily get your podcast out to Apple, to Spotify, Stitcher, and all the main big platforms that are out there.
Right.
You would want to also be able to copy that onto your website. So there needs to be some way that you can get the coding to put on your website, to create it on your website as well. That's something I'd recommend. What else? What else? I mean, basically with the one that I have, one of the things is being able to, because when you do a podcast, the sound has to be right. And the sound is the most important part of it, really, because people will put up with bad video as long as the sound is good, but they won't put up with bad sound if the video is good. Right. So the sound has to be the key thing.
Yeah.
And then with the channels like Apple and places like that, they do require good quality sound. So having an app that you can run your audio through to equalize it, make sure it sounds okay, that's another issue. So you want it to sound quite professional. Another one that my one does that I love is, at the beginning of your podcast, you can have an intro, and at the end you can have an outro, and it's the same every week, or every session. So you have an intro and an outro. So rather than me having to edit every session to put the intro in front of the video and put the outro at the end of the video, the software that I use does that for me. All right, on every, so I don't have to worry about all of that kind of stuff. Right. So I just want everything as easy as possible. So
all right. Speaking of intro and outro, I'm so glad you brought that up. And what things do you feel like a person who's starting out a podcast, they should include in their intros and outros?
Right. So the good thing to put together is your core message. So you want to make it very clear at the beginning of your podcast who this podcast is for. So what is it that you're covering? Who is it that you're doing it for? And the value that they're going to get from it. So basically, as long as you have those three elements, this is a podcast for X that's going to cover X, Y, Z, right? Then that's what you need. And then you can decide whether you want to record that intro yourself.
Okay.
Or whether you want to get a professional voiceover talent to do that for you. So that's what I did. I just got, there's a place called voices.com.
What is it called?
Voices.com.
Voices?
Yeah. Okay. I think that's what it's called.
Never even heard of it.
Okay, yeah. So it's just like an online platform that matches up people wanting the service with professional voiceover talent. So you can go in and you can listen to different voices, and you decide which one you like, and they can audition for you as well. And then you narrow it down, you choose which one you want, and then they will record. You make your payment and they'll record the voiceover for you. So I did mine. So this is I had mine up. Basically, once I decided to do my podcast, I literally had it up within 2 days from setting the whole thing up to getting the voiceover talent, because the voiceover talent was so quick. I think it was a Saturday night or it was a Friday night. I think it was a Friday night that I went on the platform and I chose the talent. And I would say within a couple of hours, she had the voiceover back to me. So I was just able then to put it in my editing software and create that voiceover intro with a bit of music in the background. And that was it. I had it done.
Wow. How was your experience in terms of, them interaction you have with them? I'm assuming it was through email or whatever, or how did that work out? What did you need to tell them, like, hey, I need to do blah blah blah?
Okay, so on voices.com, what you do is you first of all you go and post your job, if you like. You say to them what it is you want. So I want an intro to a podcast. Then you give them the script, what you want them to say, and the length, the estimated length that you want, right? How short it has to be in terms of time.
Okay.
And then you choose. There's two ways. You can either just go and put your job up, and then you get voice talent bidding for the job. So then you
Okay.
can look at what comes through, and then you listen to their samples, and then you choose the one that you best like. Or you can do it the other way, where you go and look at the list of voice talents on the platform and go and listen to some that you like, and then you can directly contact them through the platform. You can contact them as well. So that's another way.
Okay.
You can do it both ways.
Well, that's fairly simple, and thank you so much for sharing that particular resources. I didn't know that, but people who are starting out now, they're starting the podcast. I'm sure they will appreciate it. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh, you're
So
welcome.
yeah, so now we got up intros. Now we got. I guess you could do the same thing with the outro. So
Yeah.
it's the same thing,
Yeah.
or you could use one of them for both, or what do
I
you?
mean, yeah, I mean, different people do it different ways. So you could do another message for the outro. So you could actually automate, in that sense, your call to action. So if you have the same call to action after every session, you could sort of be saying, like, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, share it, like it, whatever. So you could do that call to action as a pre-recorded thing.
Okay,
So that could go on the end. For mine, I just have music at the end.
got it. Okay.
And I just, at the end of every session that I record, I just do that call to action myself rather than getting someone else to do it for me.
And speaking of call to action, what would be a good ideas or good things to have call to action for? For example, go to my website and get
Yeah,
this free thing, or go to my YouTube, or what kind of things would
yeah,
you include in call to action?
yeah. So it depends what you want them to do, I guess, really.
Right.
So for when I have guests on, then my call to action is to get the audience to go to my guests' platforms. So whichever my guests, what they give me, I will then actually say, go and check this out. So that's my call to action for them. So there's different things you can do on a podcast. Oh, and that's another thing actually as well, is when you do your podcast, you want to decide what kind of podcast show you're going to be running. So do you want it to be a solo show where it's just you and you're the one that is speaking every session, and you may decide that you want your podcast just to be able to promote your own stuff solely and nothing else.
Right.
All right. So then the call to action at the end of every session will be some kind of offer you have, or you're sending them to your website or a landing page where you're offering something. And you're always wanting, I think a good thing every time is to get them to ask them to share, ask them to subscribe so that they can get hold of the next one. So that's a good thing to do. But you could, like as we do, your sessions could be, my sessions are kind of a mix between me talking on my own for some sessions and me interviewing people for other sessions.
Gotcha.
And when you're interviewing people, it's a great thing because, as you say, you build a community faster because you're reaching a wider audience, because you're not only got your own audience, you've got your guest audience as well.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
it's a way to get your message out to more people in that sense.
Okay. Yeah, that definitely. I feel like that's definitely if you are just starting out and
Mm.
you have zero audiences. I feel like I don't know how I can increase it. Or you have a little bit of audience. Let's just say 100 people listen to your show, 100 listens, and then you
Mm.
want to go into the like thousand series. Go
Mm.
on other people's podcasts and
Yeah.
be a guest, and then that way you could increase your listenership for your show when they come up there. And speaking of going other people's audiences and other people's podcasts,
Mm.
what kind of things, like when you go to other people's audience, like for example we're doing right now, and then how do you go and tell them that make sure you add enough value where other people's gonna go and do that, or what kind of things you would share? I guess it's like I would say it's for if you are being interviewed, it makes it so much easier, doesn't it? Because you don't have to think, because you know your content, you know
Right.
your stuff, and the
Yeah.
other person, it becomes the other person's job who's interviewing you a little
Yeah.
interesting or harder, because you're just like, hey, I'm here, ask me anything.
Uh, Okay, so what I have is something called a one sheet.
Okay.
And a one sheet is, as it says, it's one sheet. Basically, it's one sheet of paper where you're basically summarizing your value proposition for that, for having you on somebody else's show. So your one sheet needs to be a quick introduction to you and your brand, a bit of a bio as to who you are and your authority and why you are an authority on the particular subject matter you're dealing with.
Yep.
It's useful to be able to give them some subject matters that you cover so that they can understand how that fits in with their target audience. Can you give value to their target audience? Because there's not much point having someone on your show if they've got no relation whatsoever to anything that your audience is interested in. It's a bit of a waste of time, right? So you need to be able to identify what value that they can give to your audience. So you're giving value to your audience yourself by having that guest on the show. And then giving them some questions that they can actually ask. You can include that on the one sheet as well. And then your contact details, how can they contact you, and your links to social media, things like that. So with that information, at least they can make a decision as to whether they want you on their show or not. And they've got the information that they need. And then with you having questions on there about what kind of questions you're willing to answer, you're helping them in a way that they don't have to come up with the questions themselves.
Right.
And so it makes it easier for them. And also you're then controlling the narrative because you've said, I'll answer these questions. And if you can't answer your own questions, you have a problem. Right. So at least if you know what questions are coming up, then you're obviously going to know enough about what it is you're talking about, right? That you can actually answer those questions. So
Right.
that helps as well.
Yeah, definitely. You answer your own question. If you get, like you said, you can't answer your own question, then you shouldn't be interviewing in the first place. That would not make any sense. And then more of you do your interview is things like that, and then the more comfortable you get. Speaking of comfortable, if somebody who's giving their interview the very first time, any tips you can share to make them feel comfortable? Like, hey, I'm nervous. This is my very first interview. I don't want to screw this up, and I want to make sure I add a lot of value to people who are listening to this.
Okay. Well, I think the comfortable thing about it is it's pre-recorded, so you can edit a lot of the time, right? So that's one thing is at least you have the comfort of knowing that you can go back and you can edit things if something goes wrong.
Right.
My very first podcast with a guest, that was another thing. When I first set up my podcast show, I put, I think, 5 podcasts up. All in one go, so at least it looked like there was some content on there when it was launched.
Right.
So that's one thing I did. And then the first interview that I did after that, I interviewed someone and she hadn't set up her audio correctly on her side, and I didn't check that the audio was working when I did the interview with her. So when I played it back afterwards, after I said bye, and I played it back, you could hear me and then silence. And that where she was speaking, it hadn't recorded. And then you could hear me again and then silence, right? So it hadn't picked up her voice at all because she was using the wrong mic setting on her computer. So I had to go back to her and say, can we come on again? And it just, luckily it happened on that particular day. She had time and I had time. So we just redid it.
Right.
So that was an experience. So and that's the thing as well. When you make these mistakes, at least you learn and you'll never forget the next time. Right. So being able to test. So what I do usually when I get a guest on now is I will just have a pre-chat with them before we start the actual recording. And so that makes everyone comfortable anyway. So if you're having a chat beforehand and everyone's sort of settled down, and then during that pre-chat, I'll just record a little bit of that. And then before we do the main recording, I'll just listen back to that recording and just make sure it's actually there, right? So I make sure that it's correct. Right.
You definitely get. That's a great point to bring it up because before your interview, you make sure you have good checks in terms of audio, your internet, and the person where they're gonna be sitting. It's the same environment because you don't want to be like interviewing, especially if you do a video class, right? And then
Right.
you're gonna planning on putting it somewhere else. And then you're like, hey, I'm gonna interview you. You could be in the video, and then next to you, you got some stuff in the background, like a bourbon or some kids running around, and then you're like, I can't edit that. I don't want to edit that. So just make sure you want to have some settings like very comfortable, like yours right now. And it's like, oh my god. And then so yeah, definitely those checks are definitely one of them. One of them is like you can hear that person. Number
Yeah.
two, they can hear you. And number
Yeah.
three, the most important one I feel like is the internet. That connection is pretty solid. Where not in the
Right.
middle of it is gonna go out, and they're like,
Yeah.
what happened?
Oh,
That would be the worst thing to do, I think, personally.
well, I think,
But
yeah, these are some of the things. And these, as I say, this is mostly it's pre-recorded, so at least if things go wrong, you can stitch things together.
right.
I did a webinar the other day, and that went wrong. That was live. And what happened was, I'm going to change my mouse because I was using my mouse and it was really sensitive, and I just moved it a tiny little bit, and my screen just blew up. Everything just magnified. So then I lost the controls. I couldn't move to the next slide. So in the end, and I couldn't get it back down. I couldn't work out how to do that. So I just said, okay, I'm going to log off. And I'm going to log back in, and hopefully this will fix itself when I come back. So that's what I had to do. So there was about 15 seconds on the video where it's just blank, nothing's happening, because I was gone, and then I had to come back in and start again. Well, not start again, but just resume from where I was. So
Right.
these things happen, and I think as well when they do happen, it just it shows you as human, and it's how you react to the situation that then people, I think, accept you as being more authentic as well.
Right.
So then you come across more like them. You're not sort of up on a pedestal. It can happen to anyone, kind of.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the best thing you could do is like be acceptable to change because things that you're gonna do, they're gonna change. And then if you can't learn to be acceptable to change, then you're gonna be stuck and you will not move forward. Like
Because
there has
anything can happen, right?
literally there has been some situation where I was podcast I was interviewing someone, and sometime the person who I was interviewing, I mean, not I was giving the interview, and that person's thing didn't work out. I'm like, oh man. And then and if I was in a kind of person like I'm stuck in, I only want to do one way. I was like, you know what, your thing is not working. Let me put it on mine, and I'll give you whatever you need, the audio, the video, and then you could do whatever you want with it. That kind of
Right.
thing. And then another one was like where the person's like, hey, I'm recording, and then all of a sudden they had a blackout, the electricity went out. I was like, all right,
Oh,
like it happens. So I was like, no problem, man. Just reschedule it, and then we reschedule it. It worked out pretty good. Things
okay.
happen, so you have to be a little more flexible, I
Yeah.
suppose. Not be like kind of person like, hey, you messed up. I'm never gonna talk to you again. And you were like, well, I'm like, oh my god, no way. You have to show some human side to it, like you said, and the flexibility because that does help out. Because if you do that now, later on, a week, 2 months, or 2 months later, it's gonna come back to you. I feel that way.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And when it comes back, it's gonna come back a million times more. Then you're like, oh wow. And only thing you really did was just treated that person like with
Right.
respect, with and a care, and like what I always do is like I treat whoever I'm interviewing, whoever I'm talking to, like they are my family member. I want to do everything for them. That's
Right.
my thing. So like
Okay.
okay, yeah,
And then I would say another thing is different people have different, I would say, attitudes to the quality of their podcast and how they want it to be. So for me, I just decided because tech isn't really my thing, and I don't want to be spending a lot of time editing.
right,
I'm basically, it's going up as it was recorded, unless something really, really goes wrong, right? Then I don't edit at all. Where I know some people, they've told me that they, like every time they go, that kind of stuff, they will edit that out. So that's too much work for me. That's
The reason why I'm shaking my neck is because I used to do that when I started the whole podcasting thing. I'm like, I want it to be so perfect where for someone listen to it, they're gonna think like they're listening to a damn English lecture, and then no
Right.
one listened to it. Because if you think about it, like why would anyone want to listen to anything? Because number one, they can relate, and how does someone relate to it? Relate to
Mm,
it because I am just like them. I make mistakes, or I screw up, or I
exactly.
do things.
Yes,
If
exactly.
someone can relate to that, like, hey, I am just like Mark, or I am just like you,
Yeah,
then like I want to listen to more of you.
yeah,
You know.
yeah,
So so
exactly. It doesn't need to be too polished, and this 80-20 principle, basically, if it's 80% there, is good enough, kind of thing. It's because otherwise, if you're waiting for it to be perfect or trying to make it perfect, it just delays, you
the
putting
whole.
it out there,
Yep.
and you may
And
never put
then
it out there as well.
yeah, the perfectionist
Yeah.
syndrome, whatever you want to call it. There's so many different nouns there, so we'll just call it
Yeah.
perfectionist for now. The more
Mhm.
you try to perfect it, the more you're gonna delay it. The more you're gonna delay it, the more frustrated you're gonna get because it's taking so long. And in essence, you will get frustrated to the point where you're like, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Screw it. Screw it.
Too hard.
Exactly. As compared to, like you say, 80-20. If 80% is good, the other 20%, I'll deal with it. Or I'll improve it in the next episode or in the
Right.
next thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And you learn as you go along, right?
and
As well.
yeah, speaking of learning, what things have you learned since your first episode?
What things have I learned?
Like
Well,
in terms of podcasting and all.
yeah, the first one is the microphone thing and test it first. That's
Okay.
one. Um, for the video part of it is the lighting, which you very kindly helped me with our last interview. So what happened? I was on another interview with Mark before,
Right.
and my light, I was all really overexposed and yellow, and we couldn't work out what the hell was going on, right? And so it turned out, and this is another thing actually that might help people, is I don't know what they call it, can't remember now, on the Mac anyway, you can have a night shift vision kind of thing, where the lighting will dim in the evening, but
Okay.
so it gives this yellowish tinge. So I didn't realize that affected my camera as well. I had no idea that this was happening. So if I was working in the evening on my computer, it didn't look so white and bright. It was quite a comfortable lighting for me to actually be working on,
Right.
but it translated through to the camera as well. So what you saw on the camera was also yellow as well. So
That's
that was
cool.
an issue. And then the other thing was my lighting was too bright as well, right? And
I
so
think it's called like soft light is a little more yellowish, and then the
yeah,
daylight is little bright
yeah.
white light.
So
Yeah.
Mark advised me to just go and get a daylight bulb. I was like, I can do that, okay?
Really, isn't that simple? Like, dude.
And it's just made such a difference. So yeah, just little tips like that as well.
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
help.
It's like I got this little setup here. I got two light bulbs in front of my camera, and I got a webcam, and I got my mic. And that's it. Nothing
Yeah,
complicated about it. I'm
yeah,
not doing the like channel mixer thing, whatever. Like it's
right.
USB mic. It doesn't get any easier than
Yeah.
that.
And
And
another,
speaking,
oh, sorry, go on.
no, go ahead, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
So another thing that I've learned also is to get, so you can see on your video here, you've got your microphone. We can see your microphone there, and you've got
Right,
that on the boom arm, right?
right.
So I used to have my microphone on the desk.
Okay.
And so every time I touched the desk, right, it just echoed through the microphone, and it is
Yep.
so loud. So I couldn't even put a coffee cup down. I'd have to do it really quietly, put a pen down. It would, you'd hear everything.
Yep.
So when I put it on a boom instead, that made a lot of difference as well.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely does. That boom arm definitely does help a
Yeah,
lot because when I first started with the whole online world, I had a mic, like you said, on your desk, and I
yeah,
would like do the tutorial, and I'm typing, and all I heard dum 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 dum. I was like, what the
yeah,
like, yeah, I totally understand. So yeah, those things that I learned along the way, like don't have it there, or if you're gonna do it, and then in your software recording, then don't record the keys and things of that nature. So that does help.
Oh, how do
Right.
you do that? Because that was another thing I was going to say. Because I used to have one of those gaming keyboards,
Okay.
right? They're really loud. The really, really, it sounds like a typewriter. Really, everything you punch was really, really loud. So I changed that to a more modern, quiet keyboard. So that also. So how do you not record your keyboards? That's
Well, the way that works is like I don't know which recording software you use. I use Camtasia, and in
okay.
there it gives you an option to when you're doing the screen recording, not the video recording, but the screen recording part, where meaning screen recording being that if you're showing somebody, hey, go to this website, go click on that, things of that nature, you could tell it not to record your system audio, and then it will somewhat
Ah,
minimizes it.
okay. Got it. Got it. So that's if you're doing a demonstration, teaching something on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I would think when you're doing the video part of it, you don't have to worry about the keyboard because it's just
Yeah.
just to
You're just
use just the
talking to
video
it.
part,
Yeah.
right?
But if
Right.
you're demonstrating something on the computer, you need to. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. So don't
yeah,
record system audio.
correct. That will help you minimize it because then it will not do anything when keyboard related. Well, then
Right.
again, depending on which software I use, Camtasia, and some people use Audition, Adobe Audition, things of that nature. So everyone has a different things, but I feel like the Camtasia one is simple but yet
I
so
have Camtasia.
powerful.
Yeah.
And it's just so powerful. It's like wow, I
Yeah.
don't even do it anymore. So I don't use anything. I used to use like Adobe Premiere, the other or what you call Audacity, and there's a couple of other ones. I'm like once I switched to Camtasia, it
Okay.
literally has everything. You could do the screen recording as
Yeah.
well as the editing part, and then it spits
Yeah.
out your MP3 for your podcast as well as your video file for different
Right.
resolutions and things like that. So it works out great. So all in package in one.
I have Camtasia too.
It works out. So small world, we use the same thing. All right. All right. Let's move on to my podcasting career as a photographer. So I got my podcast, I got my hosting, and how
Mm.
do I get people to go actually listen to my wonderful, amazing podcast?
Oh, that's the marketing side of it, basically, right? So you just go and share it to everyone. So sharing it to your community, just put Facebook posts out, things like that. Just getting people to share because you're giving value. It's another way for you to give value to your community by them not just hearing from you all the time, and that's something that they would appreciate, I think, because you're actually bringing other people into their world and saying, I've got an expert for you here, come and listen to this. So
Right.
that's another way to increase your listenership. um yeah.
Another thing which you mentioned earlier was like call to action. When you do the call to
Yeah, yeah.
action, when people are like, "Hey, by the way, go click this link in the show notes, the description, where you want to call it," and then you go opt into my email list. And when you get
Yeah.
opt into the email list, like when you have a new episode out, you blast that out. You could also do that
Yeah.
too. So thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that as well.
Yeah.
So you got your Facebook, you got your email, and then obviously your other social media platform like Facebook,
Yeah.
Instagram, Pinterest. That also works as well. And then
Yeah.
YouTube search engine if you're doing the video part of it.
Yeah. So basically, the key is to get them onto capture them in your list in some form, wherever you're having your lists, you're building your list.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get them so that you can market to them again as well. So
Yeah.
once they're on your list, you can continue to build that relationship in whichever channel that you're using to do that.
Yeah, I am so surprised to know there are plenty of podcasters out there that do
Oh yeah.
not use email marketing as their tool. And
Okay.
they're like, I need to promote my stuff, but you have no one to promote it to. Like, I'm so astonished. Like, what do you mean? I know you get emails from other people offering you stuff.
Uh-huh.
You are a consumer. I know that. Why don't you become a producer where you are on the other side sending it? And I think I feel like some of the thing is because like I don't know how to do that, things of that nature. So I think the very simplest one would be if you could tell me if I'm wrong, or if you have different experiences with it or different tools, resources, would be like a Mailchimp. It's free. Like damn, it doesn't get any easier than that. What resource do
Yeah.
you have?
Yeah. Okay. I have a different one. I have something called Simplero, which
Simplero. Okay,
yeah,
I
it
didn't know that.
not many people have heard of it, and it doesn't integrate very well with a lot of other things. But the reason because I mentioned earlier, I just want everything to be simple, right? I don't
Sure.
want to deal with all the tech stuff and all that kind of stuff. So I got really frustrated as I was going through this journey of learning all the different tools are out there. And then they're always changing as well. New things come along and technology changes. But the good news is that technology is always changing to get simpler,
Right.
right? So it's easier to do this stuff than it used to be a few years ago. But what I got frustrated with was that I would be paying so many different subscriptions for different apps to
Right.
do one thing so you're building a sales funnel. So the sales funnel is created with there's different aspects to it, and there's different apps. You need a landing page, you need your email software, all that kind of stuff. You need video and all that kind of stuff. So everything was all on separate apps.
Right.
So for your email marketing, that was a separate app as well. So something like MailChimp. I used to use ActiveCampaign as well.
Okay.
I used to love ActiveCampaign. It was really good. But the thing is, it's a separate tool, right, to the rest of the stuff. So it has to all be integrated all together.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them work well, some of them don't work as well, and some work better together than others, and all this kind of stuff. So, and then I found Simplero. Simplero just
How do you
had
spell that, by the way? Just out of
it like
curiosity.
simple, then RO.
RO. Okay.
Yeah, Simplero. So it's a company that originated in Denmark.
Okay.
The guy who runs it is now in New York as well.
Imagine that.
Yeah. So the thing that attracted me to that was that it just put everything in one place. So I could build my website on it. I can build as many landing pages as I wanted on it. I could build my membership sites, put my courses on them, do my email marketing, do SMS marketing. It's all there in one, and it's quite easy to use once obviously there's a learning curve to learn how to do it, but
Right.
building websites on it is just so simple. It's untrue. And landing pages. So this just made everything much more simple for me to
Mm-hmm.
do. So that's what I use to do my email marketing at the moment.
All right. I thank you for sharing it once again. Another one. We got the voice, we got some plural, and we got more coming, I guess. I don't know. We'll find out. So yeah, definitely. I used to be like the same thing. I used like long time ago when I was doing my photography thing. I
Right.
used Mailchimp, then I used ActiveCampaign. I even got into the board with the Aweber and
Okay.
then ConvertKit and
Yeah.
all of those things, and
Yeah.
then it got to the point where like you said, every single one of them has every different things that are really good at it. And
Yeah.
I was like, hey, I wish there was a platform in which you can just combine the whole damn thing and then we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And apparently there wasn't anyone. So I was like, you know what? Just like with my company, Simple Podcast Cloud, I created something on my own proprietary
Right.
for my businesses only that does
Okay.
everything that I need. And what
Okay.
I realized is like all these different marketing campaigns and then different email marketing companies,
Right.
they charge you, let's just say $30, right, for a sending 2,000 contacts. You can have 2,000 contacts on average, right, and you could
Yeah.
send them like 5,000 emails. So 2,000 contact, only unlimited thing. And if you go over 2,000, then you can only send like 4,000 emails or something like that, whatever,
Right.
right?
Go up to the
But
next plan or something.
right, then you go to next plan, next plan, next
Yeah.
plan, next plan, next plan,
Yeah.
right? And when I was like, okay, and then I did the same thing, next plan, next plan, next plan, to the point where it's like, oh my God, this is getting ridiculous and I'm not getting everything I want, right?
Yeah.
And then I was like, let me go try to find out if there's a way I can actually build it because I have a technology background, because I know a lot about web development and things of that nature.
Right.
What I realized, these companies are using behind scenes, these other companies, they do the transactional email. Like for example, when you go book something, like
Okay.
a book a flight or
Mm.
hotel or whatever, and you
Mm.
get an email notification saying, hey, by the way, this is your confirmation number. Those are
Yeah.
called transactional email. And these
Right.
transactional email company, for example, SendGrid is one of the greatest ones I use
Right.
personally as well. And then
Mhm.
there's a Spark Post and a couple of other ones. They will charge you, get ready for this, for 20,000, or let's just say, I want to say 40,000 emails per month,
Mm,
only like $9.99, like
mm,
10 bucks, 10 bucks.
mm, mm,
Right? So I was like,
mm.
wow, if I can get that kind of deal, 40,000 emails, I'll send it out every single month, obviously with the automation, the sales ones, and everything else. And
Uh-huh.
then I can literally build a tool around it, right? But obviously,
Okay.
I understand, I know the technology background,
Yeah.
so I'm like, okay, I know what I need to do. But someone who may not know the tech, who's not very technical savvy, for these
Yeah.
companies are really good. Simplero seems like pretty good deal because you get everything with it.
Yeah.
You get the email marketing, you get the membership site and the product and sales and things like that. That's definitely good. So each
The
your
only thing they don't do is webinar. That's the only thing that's not, that's the missing piece is the webinar. Otherwise, it's all
right.
there.
Okay. And then there's another one, another resource that I want to share is called. Let me just make sure I spell it right. It's Podio. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Yeah. I
Podia.
used Podium for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty good too.
Yeah.
In terms of, but they don't do any email marketing kind of thing,
Yeah.
whatever. It's just only like, hey, if you want to sell your online courses, go sell on that platform, and they have a very, very good, affordable, competitive price as well.
Mm,
So that works out for some people who are looking to do that too. But back to the whole webinar podcasting thing. I
yeah.
know people who are like, okay, now when we talked about so much stuff in here, I know someone who's just starting out, they're gonna be like, hey, if I just follow these damn tips, I know I can become a successful podcaster, things of that
Yeah.
nature. I know what I need to do. I know how to create my content. I know
Mm,
where I need to go set it up. I know how I need to market it where other people can listen to it. Then a
mm.
next and obvious question becomes like, how do I make the damn money? and that's going to lead into what we literally just talked
Right.
about the different platforms where you can go and create online courses. So from
Right.
that, I will let you take it away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so how do you like, promoting your stuff so that you're actually going to bring people over to buy
Right, like
from?
for right, exactly, right.
Yeah. So yeah. So obviously you want to monetize what you're doing. So
Right.
podcast is there's two things to a podcast. One is it helps you to build your brand and your authority,
Uh-huh.
just like as if you were an author. So when people write a book and they get a book published, it automatically gives them that degree of authority
Right.
because people will trust people who have a book, right? And so you could think of a podcast as your audiobook in a way, right?
Right.
So it's a way for you to have a show, put it out there, share your knowledge, build your credibility, build your brand. So that's one way. But also you're giving value to your listeners because you're putting out content that helps them, right, which is key. So this
Right.
idea of giving first, you've got to give. And so with it, if you do a successful podcast and you do it right, then you're going to, over time, you're going to build an audience that trusts you and is looking forward to hearing the things that you're putting out because it helps them. And then they want to hear more. You can then bring them over into your world, into your ecosystem, and that can be send them to a landing page, offer them something. They will sign up. You capture their email, then you can continue marketing to them, and you can build what we call a product ladder,
Okay.
where this is your funnel kind of thing, right? So you build a product ladder, you offer them something that's maybe quite affordable. When they consume that and they trust you, you can then go on to the next step and offer them the next thing so that they're constantly buying from you. And one of the things in Simplero is this membership site. So you can actually build membership sites where you can put your courses into these membership sites, and you could also you could do weekly training or monthly training. Just put some extra content on there on a regular basis so that they're paying a subscription
Right.
to have that content, and you just update it every on a regular basis. So that's another way you can earn. So having a subscription model means you've got regular income coming in as long as they're subscribing, and as long as you have enough people doing that, you can make a nice income. But you have to keep marketing on that because as people leave, you've got to bring more people in to sustain that income. I think. Mm.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the disadvantage of the whole
Mm.
monthly income recurring thing is
Yeah,
like if you have those, what I call is a low bowler kind of thing, people who want
yeah,
to come in and do it and then take all the stuff they want, and
yeah,
then next month they're gone for a couple of number of reasons. One is like they are either not ready for it, or they feel like they have their own what I call is like mental challenges. They feel like they are not good enough to get the things that you want them to get, even though they truly, honestly have the ability to do that. But you
Yeah.
cannot help somebody who is not willing to help him or herself
Sometimes it
first.
can seem overwhelming. It's like, where do I start, kind of thing. So that's one of the reasons I like to say to have a system, because if you can sell it as a system and you say to people, right, start here,
Right.
right, and then you don't jump ahead because you're just going to get overwhelmed. Start here.
Right.
That helps, right? If you just overload people with too much content and they're all over the place trying to consume it, they might as well just go and Google on YouTube and find something on YouTube, right? For free.
And speaking of
So
YouTube,
yeah.
go ahead. I'll let you finish. I'll let you finish first.
So the advantage of buying a course from someone is you're really paying for that systemization of the learning. Right, because anybody can find anything on YouTube. You can go and Google on YouTube and you can learn anything you want, but it's all over the place and it's not systemized. You might be learning what you should learn last instead of what you should learn first, kind of thing. So actually the benefit of buying courses is that you get that systemization, the structure.
And I 100% agree with you. You and I and anybody else out there who puts a video on YouTube, we all know we are helping people through our videos, but we're not gonna give them a systematic thing. Step one, step two, step three, and then this is how you get it done. We might give them step one here, and then 2 months later, step three. We may forget to give them step two because we're like, we just want to help you as quick as possible way, and that's that. But if you take our course, we have spent like gazillions of hours. Obviously, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but we have spent a lot of time
You're right,
trying
brilliant.
to systemize this whole thing,
Yeah.
and then put in the thoughts and did that research. What people are actually looking for? What is
Yeah.
it that you want help with?
Yeah.
As compared to when we create a video, whatever comes to our mind, like, oh, I think that would be a good idea. Okay, great, do that.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's also good. But when, like you said, systemization, that's number one reason why would anyone spend money on getting the courses or anything like that, to put things in perspective and validate things for people who listen to this, like, and why they're spending money. They are doing it right now. They just don't realize they're buying the system. For example, if you're sick, there's a system. You go to the doctor, you see the reception, and then the doctor sees you, and then after that, you get your prescription to get the medicine. That is a system, and you pay for that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
Literally. So it's the same concept. People have been doing that for like longest time. They just don't realize. For example, if you go to the grocery store, what do you need to do? Get in your car, go to the grocery store, buy the stuff, and then whatever stuff you want to get, it's in a systematic order. The produce is in produce. The produce is not in frozen section.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Right.
Right. So that's why that's what I'm saying. I'm so glad you brought that up, the systemization. That's what people pay for it, because that's what they're used to getting it. And if they get it in that way, they're like, oh, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I really learned from it. For example, when you took your course about podcasting,
Yeah.
why did you buy it? Just out of curiosity.
I can't really think of the thought processes at the time why I bought it. But yeah, I thought she's the lady that was doing the course thought, okay, she runs her own podcast. She obviously knows what she's doing.
Right.
So she's got knowledge that I don't have. So basically that was it.
Right.
I need to
Exactly.
do this. And it wasn't expensive either. So and then it was just a simple course, and most of it was actually the way she did it on Trello, which is really interesting. I don't know if you know Trello.
Yep. I know it. I know all of them out there.
Yeah. So she basically just created the course on Trello and just did written notes. I don't even know if there were videos. I'm trying to think. Yeah, there were videos. There was videos as well. But basically she just systemized the whole thing. Okay, right. Do this first, second this, third this, and it went along the card system.
Right.
And and as I said, within 2 days I had the podcast up and done. and it was a system. It was step by step, right? Do it this way. Start with this. Start with that. Then do
Yep.
this. Then do
And
this. Then do
yep.
this. Right.
And at the end, you got the result you want, and that's all that people care about. Hey, can you help me get the result that I'm looking for? Not just get it, but help me get it faster. That's the
Yes.
key.
Yeah.
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 So
Exactly. Yeah.
yep.
So you basically shorten people's learning curve, because I could, if I'd have put my mind to it, I could say, okay, I'll go and research how to do a podcast, and I can find it online, right? But then you're dealing with all this confusing information, because one person saying do it on this platform, another person saying do it on this platform, and then it's like, okay, well, which one shall I use?
Or you would make it worse when you, especially speaking of YouTube, you are listening to somebody or watching somebody and they're talking, and I'm like, I don't understand what you're saying, because they are different languages, but even the content might be good, it might be different language. However,
Right.
maybe they're presenting it in a way that you don't like it because their
Yeah.
audio sucks, you know.
Right.
Yeah, so that makes a huge difference. So, all right, man, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate it. The wealth of knowledge that was shared here today, oh my God, if someone could just listen to that, take action, they can not only just create their own podcast, but they can also create their own digital product.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
So tell me a little bit about, like, how can people get in touch with you?
Okay, you can get in touch with me you've got my name on the screen here, at angedove.com. That's my website that you'll find me at. And then you can go through there to see what courses, etc., are on there, and how you can listen to my podcast as well.
There you go.
That's on there as well.
All right. Awesome.